Welcome to Just Listen to One podcast. I'm so sorry I haven't been posting very much since I last posted. I am going to just get right into the podcast, and as you can tell from the title, I am going to be talking about Gary Ridgway, and Gary Ridgway is an American criminal known as the Green River Killer, who was the country's deadliest convicted serial killer. He claimed to have killed as many as 80 women. Many of them were prostitutes in Washington during the 1980s and 90s. Although he pled guilty in 2003 to only 48 of the murders. Gary grew up in what became SeaTac, Washington. His father was a bus driver and his mother was a sales clerk. The younger Gary later claimed that his mother engaged in inappropriate behavior. Notably, he allegedly that after wetting the bed, a habit that pursued into his early teens, she would wash his genitals. At some point, he began fantasizing about killing her, and in the mid-1960s, he stabbed a young boy. After graduating from high school in 1996 at the age of 20, Gary served 2 years in the U.S. Navy and later settled in the Seattle area where he worked as a truck painter. Over the next 30 years, he married 3 times and had a son. In 1980, he was arrested for allegedly choking a prostitute, but there was no charges being filed after he claimed that the woman had bit him. 2 years later, he was arrested from a request. He was believed to begun his killing spree shortly after that. His first victim was thought to have been a 16-year-old girl who went missing after leaving her foster home in July of 1982. Her body was found a week later in the Green River. Over the next 2 years, he ended up raping and killed more than 40 women, many of whom were prostitutes or runaways. A number of his early victims were later found in or near a river, giving rise to the nickname Green River Killer. Other bodies were discovered in remote wooded areas. After 1984, he committed multiple more murders and lasted occurring in 1998. By August 1982, police believed that the serial killer was at work, and they eventually formed a special task force. Ridgway soon became a suspect in 1983. He was questioned in the disappearance of a prostitute who a witness claimed had gotten into his truck. He denied the allegations and passed a polygraph in 1984. Detectives later discovered a 1982 report about police finding him with a prostitute in a parked car. 2 years later, a body was found nearby. In 1987, law enforcement officials obeyed a search warrant for his home and work. However, none of the items include carpet, fabrics, and ropes could be linked to the victims. They also obeyed a DNA sample from him, but the technology then was unable to match it, with different semen recovered from the bodies. However, the following advent of more different kinds of tests, a match was made in 2001, and Gary was arrested that year. Although he initially proclaimed his evidence, Gary soon confessed to the crimes, stating that he wanted to kill as many prostitutes as possible. He targeted sex workers because he thought they might not be reported missing, and because that he hated most of them. In 2003, he accepted a plea deal in which he was sentenced to 48 convicted life sentences without the possible of parole. In addition, he agreed to reveal the location of discovered the bodies. Many suspected that he was responsible for more deaths, and in 2013, he said that he had murdered upwards of 80 women. His murders had the largest murders of killings in the U.S. When he was entering his plea agreement, many of the victims' families were invited. Many consumed Gary's for the pain he had caused them, while he stood stony-faced and unshaken. When Robert Rule, whose daughter Linda Rule was a victim, and told Ridgway that he didn't hated him and in fact forgive him for what he had done, Gary broke down crying and admitted remorse for the first time. He confessed to murdering 71 women, although he believed he may killed over 90. He claimed that he killed so many that he lost count. When he was 16, he led a 6-year-old boy into the woods and stabbed him in the chest. When he then walked away laughing and said that he always wondered what it would be like to kill somebody. He had an measurement of IQ of about 82, significantly below average of intelligence. Gary was born on the 18th of February of 1949 in Utah. He was not a good studies and was a poor student. As you can tell from his IQ, he joined the Navy after completing high school, and he served on board on a supply ship. Gary was married 3 times. In 1969, he was married at the age of 19. High school girlfriend, Claudia. They have a son together. And then in 1981, sometime before Gary began his killing, he got married to his second wife, Marcia, and she divorced him. And then he met a woman named Judith in 1985 and got married, and they got married in 1988. In interviews, Gary was expressed remorse for his actions and has worked with authorities to help locate the remaining of his victims, showing a degree of overall responsibilities and cooperation that is rare among serial killers. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and share this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next podcast.